And a good morning. Live on YouTube, you're tuned in to the Bucknell Invitational. I'm Nicholas Severny, live from the Kinney Auditorium in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania for day 3 of this invite hosted by the Bucknell Bison. We are in the first preliminary competition of this morning, the women's 200-yard backstroke competition. Three swimmers in heat 1 of 5, a field of 34 swimmers. Will be dwindled down to just 24 for this evening's final. And the middle lanes being occupied in lane number 3, Trinity Foria, junior out of UMBC. Lane 4 will have Ella Nadeau, also of UMBC. She is a sophomore. Logan Binder rounding it out, a sophomore from Fordham. Slight advantage for Binder through the first 50. The first 2 heats will be the bottom 10 seeds, with heats 3, 4, and 5 stagnating, with our top 3 seeds filling out the middle lane of the remaining heats. We are going to introduce, before every event, a cut time and a heat 1 time. Those are unofficial, but they give a representation according to the seeds of where these swimmers have to finish 1 to be able to make the final field of 24, and 2 to be able to make the top A-seeded heat. The cut time for this competition we expect to be under 2 minutes and 10 seconds. The 24-seeded Talia Bugella Bucknell has a seeded time of a 2:09:44. If these swimmers are to make the cut and advance to the final later this evening in this competition, that is the time that they will look to set. Ella Nadeau starting to separate herself a little bit from the pack. She is the favorite in this preliminary heat, in number 1 of 5, and has extended her advantage to a body's length rather, up top from Logan Binder, the only non-UMBC swimmer in this heat. So the times that we have set, of course unofficial, is a 2:09:44, once again, to be able to make the cut to the finals of this competition this evening. If you want to make heat 1, as there will be 3 heats, if you want to make heat A, you need a time of a 2:03:22. Again, that is unofficial, but based off of our estimations, that is what we are looking to see here. It's a really good sprint here from Ella Nadeau coming into the final 10 yards or so. Nadeau is going to take this emphatically. The question of the time, that's going to be hovering right where she wants to be in lane number 4. The times kept going, but we can't confirm it's Nadeau from Forey from Binder. That will round it out. And that looks to be a time from Nadeau's perspective just outside of the 2:09s, a very competitive time from the UMBC swimmer. You see we're not hiding nothing in the top left. The time sheets never stopped in terms of when the swimmers hit the wall on that left side, so the clock is still running. However, we can give an unofficial time. We'll call it, since it's unofficial, we can do whatever we want with it. We'll say it's a 2:10 flat or so from Ella Nadeau. That's going to be a very competitive time if she wants to make the cut. 10 swimmers will be cut in terms of the final, and Nadeau, trying not to be one of them, having a pretty impressive time in heat number 1 of the prelims. This is going to protrude to a slight delay here in this morning's proceedings to get the timing tables right, but when action resumes in the swimming pool, we'll go to heat 2 of 5. This is going to be the final non-seeded heat, with all of these swimmers predicted to finish outside of the cut zone. Of course, that they are not resigned to that fate, as you saw with Ella Nadeau putting in an excellent time, about a body's length and a half ahead of the closest swimmer in Logan Binder, the Fordham sophomore. Definitely a competitive start for Nadeau, trying to lean the marks here. Ian Dyer, excellent director of communications here at the Kinney Auditorium, giving some corrections to the time screen on the bottom. It is the morning, it is the first event, so of course you have to be it's a bit more convenient as we get all the actions ironed out. And we are expecting this morning, going into this evening, to have some excellent swimming on hand, both in the preliminary competitions and in the finals. The scoreboard to our left now, you can see the black screen in the top left of your screens now being reset. But it gives us an opportunity to look into how everything has taken place so far in this invitational, and the leaders are very much standing bright. There are 7 schools competing here in the Bucknell Invitational this season. Bucknell, of course, the host. Brown, Davidson, Delaware, Fordham, Seton Hall, and UMBC are the 7 schools taking part. And so far, there have been 2 that have very much separated themselves from the pack. Brown, who is in first place in both the women's and men's division, with Delaware in second in both the women's and men's division. As we are looking to get the swimming timing sheets corrected as the system, it seems, gets reset, we have a look at some of the divers who are practicing for what will be taking place later this morning, into this afternoon, into this evening. The diving competitions on hand here will be the men 3-meter diving finals. That's going to be the last competition. That 3-meter diving board towards the left side of the screen will be occupied. We've already had a couple of finals so far in the diving competitions. Back on Friday in the 1-meter dive, it was taken by Roland Lover of Brown in the men's 1-meter dive division. In the women's 3-meter dive that also took place on Friday, Elle Jacobson secured the first event victory for Davidson, and as of now, the only women's event victory, with an excellent final score to take the first place title in that one. In Saturday's competition, it was one that saw only one diving competition, the women's 1-meter dive, and that had Katie Lafferty of Fordham take the crown. That is the only Fordham event win so far. As we see our excellent crew behind the scenes steadying the ship a little bit here on that top left, they are making some adjustments once again to the timing pads. What happened, if you are just tuning in, we went through heat 1 of the women's 200-yard backstroke. Ella Nadeau was leading the line in lane number 4, and then when she touched the mat, the padding rather, on the left-sided wall, the lap kept going and never stopped. But now that we can see the corrections, and well, that's why we have those backup timers as well. We won't get Ella Nadeau's time until a bit later on in the competition, and what we expected to be somewhere in the low 210s, maybe even the higher 209s if she touched the wall conveniently. But with everything set to go, we are expected to have heat number 2 underway. Once again, the cut time predicted is a 2:09.44. That is notably faster than any of these swimmers' swim times here in heat number 2. A lot of UMBC representation as well in this heat, which is underway in lane number 2. In the women's 200-yard backstroke, Julia Snow, a junior out of UMBC, and she's got 2 teammates towards her right. That's Gianna Marie Conti, a sophomore, and Ella Tarragano, a junior. And then Fordham junior Tara Bromeyer is in lane number 5 with Delila Matthews of Bucknell, the first Bucknell swimmer taking the pool this morning. The sophomore is in lane 6, and Reese Ramsour rounding it out, a freshman out of Davidson, up in lane number 7. We can confirm, you see it on the top right, to some sarcastic applause, that the timing pads do work once again, and it's the swimmer in lane number 4, Ellie Tarragano, that's led them out, although it's been a great push by Reese Ramsour all the way up in what looked to have been lane number 7. That is lane number 7's is Ramsour, that comes about a stride behind Tarragano in the middle lane. At the halfway mark, and we're already seeing the pace increase with a vast majority of swimmers putting in sub 33-second lap times on their second lap of 4. The backstroke competition, a crowd and a field of 34 swimmers down to 24 for this evening's competition. And now a late push in lane 5. That's Fordham's Tara Bromeyer that has caught up a little bit to the UMBC swimmer Tarragano. They're about 3 abreast now in lanes 4, 5, and 7 going into the next and final wall tap for the final lap. There's a really impressive push-off in lane number 6 for Delila Matthews, notably, who has cut her disadvantage to about half a body's length. Suffice to say, the Seated times seem to be quite accurate because they are very much neck and neck here coming into the final 25 yards or so. Up in lane number 5, that is Tara Brillmeyer, who has been able to overtake for first on the final lap. A real good run for Ramsour at the top. You want to get under 2:09, and a couple of swimmers getting right at that mark as Brillmeyer takes it for Fordham with a 2:09 flat. That's a very competitive time to make the finals this evening. Ramsour in lane 7 takes second. Very impressive swim for the Davidson swimmer. Matthews of Bucknell rounding it out in the top 3. And it looks like the top 4 on my count, unofficially, quicker than all of the swimmers in heat number 1, putting themselves in good position. But now they're going to need some swimmers, specifically on the edges, to fall flat a bit here as we go to heat 3 of 5 in the women's 200-yard backstroke. Lanes 1 through 8 now occupied the rest of the way for this preliminary event. In heat 3 of 5, lane 1, Sam Benzaija, the junior out of Bucknell, is in lane 1. Lindsay Neighbor, a freshman out of Seton Hall, is in lane 2. Isabel Shapiro is in lane 3. She's a senior out of Brown, with graduate student Alice Marini of UMBC in lane number 4. Marini, one of the favorites all of a sudden in this competition as we go into the seat. She is the number 3 seed in lane number 4. Natalie Garr, though, will be competitive. The sophomore out of Brown is in lane 5. Erin Richards, a freshman out of Delaware, is in lane 6. Then 2 Bucknell swimmers in lane 7 and 8. That's Olivia Wainwright, a freshman, and Talia Bugel, a junior, in 7 and 8, respectively. And it's been a very quick start for Wainwright all the way up in lane number 7 for the Bison, but the middle lanes are occupied. Natalie Garr with a slight advantage over Alice Marini. Garr is the number 6 seed. Marini is the number 3 seed. Both predicted to finish in the top 8 for that final heat, and it's a good time to transition into what will be the heat 1 time, which we expect to be a 2:03.22 to make the final 8 in seeded A. So you're going to most likely need a time of a 2:03 or less, and so far these 2 swimmers in the middle lanes are on pace to do that. It's a competitive sprint as well for Julia Snow down, or rather not Julia Snow, in fact in the second lane it's Lindsay Neighbor, the Seton Hall freshman, who is down in lane at number 2. But it is still Garr and Marini leading it out in the middle lanes. You're not racing notably against each other. You are racing against the clock to be one of the final 8 swimmers to get into that final heat. That being said, don't tell them to these 2 because they're going to be neck and neck coming to the line. Leading it throughout is Garr, and she will take the heat with a 1:59.0. Marini in second, and now a real competition for who gets under 2:04. It'll be Wainwright of Bucknell finishing third with a 2:03.1. That is right on the line to get into that final heat with Dipadua, or rather up in 2, that's Neighbor competing with a 2:03.6. So 2 times under 2 minutes as Natalie Garr and Alice Marini followed suit, eclipsing their seeded times. And a wonder now if going under 2:03 will be required as we go into heat number 4. Heat lanes, rather, 1 of 8 occupied. Emma Feld, a senior of Bucknell's in lane 1. Bruna Dipadua in lane 2, a senior out of UMBC. 2 Brown teammates in lanes 3 and 4, Amelia Bark and Brooke Manning, a sophomore, junior, respectfully. And then in lane 5, the winner of last year's competition, a senior out of Delaware, Angie Ragazzoni, is in lane 5. Alexandra Dimitrova is in lane 6, a freshman out of Delaware, her teammate. Colby Reese is in lane 7, the sophomore out of UMBC. And in lane 8, Jenny Angelova, a junior out of Delaware. A lot of Delaware representation here in heat number 4. Should be noted, we mentioned Ragazzoni is the winner in last year's competition, but the number 2 seed and the highest seed in lane 4 is the Brown swimmer Brooke Manning. is in lane 4, but she is currently in 3rd position at the halfway mark. Up in lane 5, last year's winner in this competition, Angie Ragazzoni, leading it out. It's Ragazzoni in lane 5, and notably Amelia Bark in lane number 3. That seems to be in 1st and 2nd, and now her teammate Brooke Manning having a great wall push to now eclipse her teammate for 2nd position. But Ragazzoni, the winner in this competition last season, trying to put a really competitive time to prove why. A sub 1:30, as we have times under 31 seconds for the top 3. It's Ragazzoni from Manning from Bark in the middle 3 lanes in this preliminary competition. The Heat A time is a 2:03.22 unofficial, we predict. And right now, all 3 of these swimmers set to eclipse that and then some. But who will take this preliminary heat? Up in lane number 5, Ragazzoni led it wire to wire. A late comeback in lane 4, but it's Ragazzoni that has it. Manning, a good comeback, was the fastest swimmer on the last lap to take 2nd, Bark in 3rd, Dimitrova in 4th. All of the middle 3 lanes with sub 2-minute lap times. They'll most likely advance to the heat final. A 2:04.1 for Dimitrova might relegate her to heat B. Now we have 5 times that are under 1 minute and 59 seconds notably. Or rather, under 2 minutes, pardon me, notably, all in the 1 minute 59 seconds. We predicted the Heat A cutoff to be a 2:03. However, all of a sudden, it's looking like you might need a time all the way under 2 minutes, and that's been a representation of what we've seen throughout this Invitational with a litany of very competitive swim times. We expect maybe these cut and heat times to improve by about 3+ seconds. 5 swimmers under 2 minutes. It might take under 2 minutes to make the Heat A final. Now in Heat 5 of 5 in the women's 200-yard backstroke, which is underway. In the preliminaries, in lane 1, Amelia Hines, a sophomore out of Brown. She's one of 3 Brown swimmers in this heat. Sophia Burns is in lane 2, a sophomore out of Bucknell. 3 other sophomores follow suit. From Seton Hall in lane 3, Bianca Bukovics. From Brown in lane 4, and the favorite in this competition, that's Nadia Thomas. And in lane 5 from Delaware, Torin McGillis. In lane 6, we have our only senior in this heat out of Brown, Sumner Chmielewski. In lane 7, junior out of Davidson, Ann Thompson. Alyssa Gonchi, a junior out of UMBC, rounding it out. As of now, the Heat A time is a 2:04.13 set by Alexandra Dimitrova. But with a very competitive final heat number 5, we predict that it could be under 2 minutes even when it's all said and done. There have already been 5 swimmers with times under that 2-minute mark to make the Heat A final. Setting the pace is the favorite Nadia Thomas, whose 1:57.4 seated time is 1.2 seconds quicker than her teammate Brooke Manning, who notably might be in a little bit of trouble, Manning, with a 1:59.7 preliminary time. If this is a particularly fast heat, her time might be in trouble to take her out of Heat A. Right now, though, it is all Nadia Thomas in the middle of the swimming pool. It should be noted the pool record is a 1:54.48 set by Emma Lewandowski back in 2014. It doesn't look like she'll get to that mark, but might be competitive enough in the finals to get it. She will be the pace setter, and it's going to be a time right at 1:57.54 to top the preliminaries. And up in lane number 6, Chmielewski of Brown with a 2:83. A bit of a slower heat, notably, compared to the last one. We will get the official confirmation for who makes the heat and who is the last of the top 24. On my view, it seems like all of the top 5 at least, and maybe even the top 7, could make the evening's competition, with maybe only the top 3 making that final heat. Still waiting for the unofficial times, but no doubt who the #1 seed would be. Nadia Thomas, who his time of a 157.54 was just a tenth away from her seeded time. A very impressive performance from her. And now we go to heat 1 of 4 heats. It is the men's 200-yard backstroke, lanes 3 through 6 occupied. Nikita Bityutsky in lane 3, a senior out of Bucknell, 2 Bucknell teammates with him. Chase Ferguson in lane 4, a senior, and Caleb Hagedorn, a sophomore, in lane 5. And in lane 6 out of Fordham, the junior Johnny Heintz. And now we can give confirmation as we have the total times. Nadia Thomas will be the #1 seed with Natalie Gar, Angie Ragazzoni, Alice Marini, Brooke Manning, Amelia Barks, Sumner Chmielewski, and Ann Thompson will be the women's 200-yard backstroke finalist in that final heat. Jenny Angelova with a 2:09.09, narrowly making the final cut in the evening competition. A 2:09.09 was the eventual final time. But now back in the swimming pool here and past the halfway mark already in heat 1 of 4. This is a competition where the cutoff time, with a look at all of the swimmers taking part as we look to organize up here in the press booth. 28 total swimmers competing, we can confirm now. In the men's 200-yard backstroke competition, 4 will be cut for this evening's proceedings. And leading the way in lane 5 is Caleb Hagedorn, the sophomore out of Bucknell. Hagedorn about a body's length ahead. He is putting up pretty impressive pace to try and make this evening's final. Down in lane number 3, Nikita Bityutsky is closest to him. And his teammate to his right, not far behind in Chase Ferguson. It's Bucknell 1, 2, and 3 out of the 4 competitive swimmers, and a 1:53.2, which is a stellar time indeed for Hagedorn. That is 6 seconds quicker than his seeded time, and according to our estimations, more than enough to get in the final. It was a pace-setting performance for all of the 4, who all went under our predicted cut time. As we get into heat 2 of 4, all 8 lanes used, and a time that we predict might be just under a minute 50 to make the heat seeded A finals. Lanes 1 through 8 used here in the men's 200-yard backstroke. And lane 1 is Frankie Sanger, a junior out of Fordham. Delaware sophomore James Haney is in lane number 2. Balint Morosi is in lane 4. He is a sophomore out of Seton Hall. In lane 4, we'll see Drew Davis, a freshman out of Bucknell, with 2 Seton Hall swimmers in lanes 5 and 6. That is sophomore Kale Duong and senior Ethan Schonk. In lane 7, we'll have Braden Beagle, a senior out of Bucknell, with Caleb Kubiak, a junior out of Bucknell, in lane number 8. Caleb Hagedorn and Chase Ferguson both putting in some very impressive times in heat 1 to put a bit of pressure on the swimmers here in this heat. That looks like Balint Morosi down in lane number 1, though, that has led the pack and can't confirm with a 53.03 at the halfway mark. That is an impressive start. Chased by the Delaware swimmer Haney down in lane number 2, but they're very much even coming into the 3rd lap of 4. Up in lane number 5, Kale Duong starting to get into form. One of the 2 Seton Hall swimmers in the middle of the pool as we have 1 lap to go, a 1:25. And it's Morosi and Davis, the only 2 swimmers putting in lap times of under 28 seconds in that last lap at least. The cut time, once again, a 1:57.77, but the pace has been greater than we've expected early on. The Heat A final time is a 1:50.6. We might have to adjust those timetables because this has been a very impressive sprint in lane 3 as Morosi takes the win. And how about that, a 1:48.6. 2 swimmers under the 150 mark, with the Bucknell swimmer Davis taking second with a 1:49.3. And it looks from our estimations that everyone could be safe to compete in the finals potentially. Well, as of now, based off of what we've seeded from the seeded times, if you want to make estimations of the cut in the Heat A, take the time you think and then subtract a couple of seconds. That's what happened in the women's 200-yard backstroke, with the actual cut time 7/10 quicker than we anticipated. And now in the men's 200-yard backstroke, it seems like that could be increased, or decreased, I should say, by at least a second or two. We have not seen a single swimmer go slower than our predicted 157.7 cut time. That is the pace set by these fantastic swimmers from top to bottom. And now in heat number 3 of 4, in the men's 200-yard backstroke prelims, lanes 1 through 8 occupied. Trey Mastrandria, a freshman out of Brown, is in lane 1. Tenny McDonough is in lane 2. He is a freshman from Davidson. Matthew Purcell occupying lane 3, the Brown junior. Caden Duong is down in lane number 4, and Duong is seated second in this competition, the Seton Hall sophomore. Lane 5, Quinn Marchionini, a freshman out of UMBC. And then in lane 6, we have Nick Breakall, a junior, his teammate out of UMBC. And then in lane 7, Finn Quisted, who has a heat victory in this weekend already. He's in lane 7 out of Brown. And then Avery Kuhn, the sophomore Bucknell swimmer, is in lane number 8. Very fast times early as we're at the halfway mark. Keeping an impressive pace is Matthew Purcell, and Purcell has a chip on his shoulder here. He is the 8th seeded swimmer. He is the predicted cutoff time to make the final A-seeded finals down in lane number 3. He's not trying to just do that. He's trying to get a preliminary heat win in his docket. They are 3 abreast coming into the final lap in lanes 3, 5, and 7. That is Purcell, Marchionini, and Finn Quisted up. It's almost a 2-3 zone defense. We know basketball season has started, and the swimmers are showing why with that 2-3 zone in the middle 5 lanes. This has been a very impressive performance in the preliminaries for all swimmers involved, and they might save the best for last here, just past the pool record as they go to the line 3 abreast, and it's Quisted who took it for Brown with a 1:47.8. Marchionini in second, tied with Purcell, the Brown swimmer. Mastrandria up with a 1:49.1. That's an impressive time in his mark. That's actually the second quickest going into this third heat. But it is the top 3 separating themselves from the pack that has the best chance to make the A-seeded finals this evening. 1:47.8 by Finn Quisted. That is the fastest time that we have seen through 3 heats swam. But now into heat 4, and that is where we have our favorites in the middle of the pool. Lanes 1 through 8, Jake Lowry, a junior out of Brown. In lane 2, Liam McDonough, he is a senior out of Davidson. Lane 3 will have Jack Marin, a sophomore out of Brown. The swimmer who took second in this competition last year, Cal Lefterov, is in lane 4. He is a senior out of Delaware. He's got 2 teammates next to him, and Cade Snyder in lane 5, a sophomore, and Max Moen, a junior, in lane 6. Ben Orr, a freshman out of Fordham, is in lane 7. He's got his teammate, junior Bryce Wilkins, next to him in lane number 8. Getting the swim times in the final, the current 8th seed has a time of a 1:50.1. That's already better than our predicted heat time, a 1:50.1 by Cale Duong. If you want to make the Heat A finals, you need to have a time at least as quick as that. But as of now, the prediction is that that swimmer in the middle lane, number 4, Cal Lefterov, is going to surpass it and then some. His seated time of a 1:46.8, 2.5 seconds quicker than the field. Lane 5, though, it's Cade Snyder, his teammate, that is leading the line. And Max Moen putting in a Delaware 1, 2, and 3 as of now. Attempting to spoil that mark is Jack Marin, the Brown sophomore, who is fourth, trying to spoil a Blue Hen 1, 2, and 3, but they are pretty much synchronized now going into the final back wall. We'll see as they escape the water who has the edge out of the water first in lane number 4 is Lefterov, and Lefterov's trying to make that final push. Kate Snyder, though, has that slimmest of margins. Lefterov looks to be slightly quicker, but Snyder held on with a 1:47.0, the number 1 seed in the preliminaries. Lefterov and Moen a 1, 2, and 3, with Lowry down in lane number 1, securing 4th position, just a second and a half away. And 5 swimmers securing spots in the Heat A final. The final taken by Jack Marin down in lane number 3 to join Finn Quisted, Quinn Marchionini, and Matthew Purcell unofficially in that mark for the final. We are about to get a lot quicker now here with the women's 100-yard freestyle. We will see 8 total heats, 59 total swimmers, but only 24 can make the finals this evening. 3 competing now. Junior out of Fordham, Ellen Lange, and then Victoria Gutierrez is in lane 4, rather. 3 is Lange, 4 is Gutierrez, a freshman, and then Claire Kelly in lane 5. She is a Bucknell senior. Getting the final times for the men's 200-yard backstroke. It is Snyder, Lefterov with Max Moen, Finn Quisted, Quinn Marchionini, Matthew Purcell, Jake Larry, and Balint Morosi unofficially the top 8, and securing the final spot for Bucknell, Caleb Kubiak, who has the 24, the cutoff time of a 1:54.9, which was almost 3 seconds quicker than our predictions. That's why we're up here in the press box and not down in the swimming pool. Into the final now in lane number 4, Gutierrez leading it for Fordham. A late push down in lane number 3, but Gutierrez will take the heat with a 55.07. Gutierrez from Lange from Kelly, a Fordham 1 and 2 with Kelly rounding it out. And now lanes 2 through 7 used in heat 2 of the prelims. The cutoff time we predict, a 53 flat, with the heat A time a predicted 51.52 as we're underway. In lane 2 through 7, Charlotte Skog, a freshman from Seton Hall, followed by Campbell Stever in lane number 3, a freshman from Fordham, Reagan Sherrill, a sophomore out of UMBC. And then it's Cookie Mahoney, a sophomore at Davidson in lane 5. Grace Little, a junior in lane 6 from UMBC. And Sophia Parker, a junior out of Davidson, rounding out the competitors. At the halfway mark, slight advantage in lanes 5 and 3 from Mahoney and Stever. We mentioned 53.0, the predicted cutoff time coming into this evening's heat. This is a field of 59 that will be dropped to 24. If you want to go even further and try and make the type 8, you need a 51.5. Up in lane number 5, Mahoney leading the way. A slight push in lane 3 from Stever, but Mahoney hangs on with a 53.2. Stever's is 53.8, a competitive time as well, but it is Mahoney that takes the preliminary heat. The cutoff time, by the way, seated 24th, is Evie Grimm, who we will see later in heat number 6 of 8 in this competition as we go to heat number 3. And now for the rest of the way, all 8 lanes being used. Cookie Mahoney's 53.28, the quickest through 2 heats as we're underway in heat number 3. Lanes 1 through 8, Karis Gravel, a junior out of Seton Hall. In 2, it's Claire Chasen, a sophomore from Davidson. Lane 3, we'll see Ashley Piacentino, a junior from Bucknell, with 2 Fordham teammates in lanes 4 and 5. That is Daisy Mitchell, the sophomore, Charlotte Foggin, the freshman. The junior out of Seton Hall, Naima Hazel is in lane 6. Imogen Judd is a freshman out of Davidson in lane 7. Her teammate, freshman Ellery Brakel, up in lane number 8. And the aforementioned Judd doing very well all the way up in lane number 7, keeping up with the swimmers in the middle. It is a slight advantage going to lane number 4. That is sophomore out of Fordham, Daisy Mitchell. And her teammate not far behind as well in Foggin. Mitchell leading the way. It'll be close coming to the line. And Mitchell hangs on with the 52.5. Mitchell and then up Judd out of Davidson with an impressive swim to take second. Pia Santino rounding out the top 3, all with times under 53 seconds. That was our predicted cut time, but these swimmers are very competitive this morning. As we now get set for heat number 4, approaching the halfway mark here in the women's 100-yard freestyle. Lanes 1 through 8, Therese Enriquez, a senior from Fordham. In lane 2, Kira Giles, a freshman from Bucknell. Bella Granetsky, a senior from Delaware, is in lane 3. Skylar Hay is in lane 4. She is a freshman from Seton Hall. It's actually freshman the rest of the way, with McKenna Smith of Davidson in lane 5. Kennedy Ann DeVoe, a freshman from Bucknell, in lane 6. Her teammate Victoria Castro in lane 7. And Julia Pisano of Davidson up in lane number 8. Castro from Bucknell leading the way currently all the way down in lane number 3. Bella Granetsky is putting in a decent shift, the senior out of Delaware. Out of the pool first with their head bobbing is Victoria Castro. And some Delaware applause down in lane number 3 for Bella Granetsky, who is going stride for stride with Castro up in lane number 7, but in Castro able to hold on with a 51.3. Granetsky settling for second. Smith a sub-52 second time for Davidson. For Delaware, rather, down in lane number 3. According to our predictions, we're now going into a potential territory where you can make the seeds, but this has been a very stellar pace from all the swimmers involved, as now we start to get, after this 5th heat, into our competitors and our favorites to win the competition. But first we have heat 5 of 8 here in the women's 100-yard freestyle. Lane 4 unoccupied. Megan Gangaway of UMBC looks to be a late scratch, as well as Ginny Thorson in lane number 1. So lane 2 and 3 will have senior from Fordham, Hope Nolan. In lane 3, Sarah Catron, a junior out of Bucknell. And then in lane 5, her Bison teammate is junior Virginia Hastings. Jani Angelova, junior from Delaware, is in lane 6. Ashley Gutshaw in lane 7, the junior from UMBC. And freshman Hannah Klinging-Smith out of Bucknell is in lane number 8. The quickest time that we have seen so far, a 51.33 set by Victoria Castro. 3 abreast going into the final 25. It was Ashley Gutshaw, on my view, leading. And closest competitor in lane 3, that's Sarah Catron. Gutshaw and Catron to the line, and Gutshaw holds off with a 51.2. Catron taking second, Hastings in third, all 3 with sub-52 second times. All very much noticeably quicker than our predictions. Those times are only going to improve more and more as we see the next set of swimmers competing. And this is where we have our first seeded competitor, Isabella Diefenthaler. She is the number 3 seed, the freshman out of Brown, in lane 4. In lanes 1 through 3, Abby Steinbrook, a sophomore out of Delaware. 2 will have Audrey Chung, a sophomore from Brown, and sophomore from UMBC, Claire Ottinger, in lane 3. Liv Williamson in lane 5, the Delaware junior, with Saskia Aikman in lane 6, the freshman of Fordham. Lily Robinson, a junior out of Brown, in lane 7, and Evie Grimm in lane 8. She is a freshman out of UMBC. We predict a sub-51 second time required at least to make the final heat. And so far, it is going as advertised, with Isabella Diefenthaler predicted as the number 3 seed in this event, and she takes an emphatic victory under 50 seconds of 49.6. That is a very intimidating time. Williamson with a 51.08 of Delaware to take second. Robinson of Brown in third with a 51.1, just 5/100ths of a second quicker from Aikman in lane 6. We get a glimpse then at the cutoff time that looks to be around that 53.06 that we predicted as we go to heat 7 of 8. And it is the number 2 seed, Crystal Ewan, in lane 4 for Brown, the sophomore. Lanes 1 through 3, Kyla Kelly, a senior out of Bucknell. Lillian Klingingsmith, a senior from Brown. And then in lane 3, Judy Liu, a senior from Delaware. Ewan, the aforementioned, in lane 4. Bucknell senior Jennifer Bolden is in lane 5. Alishka Hajek, senior from Delaware, is in lane 6. Her teammate, senior Lauren Hartel, is in lane 7. Addison Constantinitis, a sophomore from Davidson, in lane number 8. Crystal Ewan has come close a couple of times in a couple of events to getting an event win, and she is the number 2 seed in this event, trying to make it third time lucky, and there is no luck required for her to take the 7th preliminary heat. She's going to take it by almost a body's length with a 49.6. That is the best time in the prelim so far. Klingingsmith making it a Brown 1-2 with a 51.03. Bolden from Bucknell rounding out the top 3 with a 51.1. Into the final heat then, heat 8 of 8 in the women's 100-yard freestyle, lanes 1 through 8 used, and we have our number 1 seed, Morgan Lukanik, already with an event win this weekend in lane number 4. As the final preliminary heat is underway, Dana Lee, a junior out of Brown, is in lane 1. Her teammate, freshman Ava McIver-Jenkins, in lane number 2. UMBC sophomore Irma Dorotovich is in lane 3. The aforementioned Lukanik in lane 4. Her teammate Kelly Dolce is in lane 5. Naya Lagarda, freshman out of Delaware, in lane 6. Gianna Miller, a junior from Brown, is in lane 7. And Caroline Furbe is in lane 8. She is a freshman out of Davidson. And they are very much even. A very competitive start for all swimmers involved, with 6 out of the 8 with separated by less than about half of a second. There is very little separating the group here. Kelly Dolce seems to be ahead of her teammate Lukanik up in lane number 5. Dolce trying to hold on for this final heat win, and she does so with a 49.9. It's only the 3rd fastest time in the preliminaries. It will be enough for the heat final, as well as Lukanik. She will not be in the middle lanes, but will produce a time of a 50.4 to get into the final heat. Quickly now we turn to the men's then. Only 6 heats used on this occasion as we go to the men's 100-yard freestyle competition that is set to take place. We have our final counts and looks in the women's 100-yard freestyle to see how all is set up. But for the men, the 100-yard freestyle is underway. We are in heat 1 of 6. Lanes 1 through 7 used. Brian Pawlowski, the senior out of Fordham, in lane 1. Alan Engstrom in lane 2, a junior from Davidson. Junior from UMBC, Michael Truong's in lane 3. Misha Semenov, the graduate student out of Fordham, is in lane 4. Finn Russell, the junior from Bucknell, in lane 5. Davis Moore's in lane 6, a junior from Davidson. and Cleo Halevi, a senior from Seton Hall, in lane number 7 as we're already past the halfway mark, and Semenov, the graduate student from Fordham, leading the line. You're going to need a time under 47 seconds to make the top 24 in a field of 50 swimmers, and trying to do that and then some is Semenov of Fordham, keeping about a body's length ahead, and will take the heat with a 45.2. That is very much competitive. Russell in second with a 46.1. Engstrom with a 46.2 to take third. Back for the women, the 100-yard freestyle, the unofficial final eight: Crystal Ewan, Isabella Diefenthaler, Kelly Dolce, Morgan Lukanik, Irma Dorotovich, with Lillian Killinging-Smith, Liv Williamson, and Jennifer Bolden for Bucknell, rounding out the top eight. The cutoff time, a 51.89. That was set by McKenna Smith out of Davidson. Unofficially, she sneaks her way into the final this evening. On to heat number 2, then, of the men's 100-yard freestyle, lanes 1 through 8 being used. In lane 1, William Harpster, sophomore from Bucknell. Then in 2, it is 2 and 3, rather, 2 Brown freshmen, Caden Blamer and Rudd Day. In lane 4, freshman from Delaware, Cody Lonsbury. In lane number 5, freshman from Fordham is Kevin Young. 6, UMBC sophomore, Tyne Van Leer. In 7, David Toppy, a junior out of Fordham, and junior from Seton Hall, Chris Jackson, rounds it out up in lane number 8. Early advantage belonging to the number 4 lane, Cody Lansbury, the freshman out of Delaware. Lansbury closely tied to the hip in lane number 3 and 2 by Day and Blamer, but Lansbury still has the advantage, builds onto it in the final 25, and will take it with a 45.4. That is the second fastest time we've seen. Misha Semenov of Fordham still with the quickest time. Second place belonging into lane 7. That's David Toppy of Fordham to make it a Fordham 2 and 3 with Kevin Young in third. The cutoff time under 47 seconds, and the heat time potentially as low as under 45 seconds as we're underway in heat 3 of 6 in the prelims of the men's 100-yard freestyle. Lanes 1 through 8 in heat 3. Jaden Bunt, a sophomore from Seton Hall. Phelim Crawley, a freshman out of Davidson, in lane 2. His teammate junior Mitch McLean is in lane 3. Tucker Peterson in 4, the senior out of Brown. Then it's Jesse Abramson in lane 5, a Fordham junior, with Garrett Jones, a sophomore from UMBC, in lane 6. Teal Vandenberg in lane 7, a senior from Fordham. And Davidson senior Jackson McDonald in lane number 8. Down low in lane 3, Mitch McLean helping lead the line all the way down in lane number 3. Up in lane 5, Jesse Abramson trying to make the push. It's still McLean, but Abramson is catching up in lane 5. This is going to be one that comes to the wall, and it's one that McLean holds on for a 45.3. Abramson settling for second, Peterson in third, Crawley in lane number 2. Up in fourth place, Vandenberg, a 46.5 to take 5th place in the heat. The heat cutoff time, we expected to have a 45.1, and now we're going to get some of the seeded times coming into place. It is very much close, though, from the beginning of the pack all the way to the end of it. Matvey Namakanov, who's already won an event so far this weekend, the senior out of Delaware, is the number 1 seed competing in heat 6. We're in heat number 4 of the men's 100-yard freestyle, lanes 1 through 8 used. Tyler Kay, freshman out of UMBC. In 2, it's Josh Donovan, a freshman from Delaware. Sean Niels is in lane 3. He is a UMBC junior. Michael Klimaszewski in lane 4, the senior from Seton Hall. Then Jonathan Gim in lane 5, a junior from Brown. Stefano Perez is in lane 6, a freshman from UMBC. And then it's James Haney in lane 7, a sophomore from Delaware. And Aaron Morton in lane number 8, a senior out of Brown. Michael Klimaszewski, the senior from Seton Hall, is the number 3 seed in this competition, and he's got a stroke and a half, I believe, in front. A good push in UMBC's is Sean Niels, but it'll stay Michael Klimaszewski. That takes it with a 43.5. That is by far and away the quickest time that we have had as we come into the seeded heats, and Klimaszewski with a very competitive time to start it out. Two more heats remaining then in the men's 100-yard freestyle competition. We go to heat 5 of 6. And starting to see times under 44 seconds. In lanes 1 through 8, Dante Buenadonna, a sophomore from Bucknell. Then in 2, Brady Robitis, a sophomore from Delaware. Kevin Carey is in lane number 3, a senior from Seton Hall. Addison Collins in 4, the Delaware senior. Then you have Matthew So in lane 5, a freshman at a UNBC. Toma Adam, a Seton Hall juniors in lane 6. Max Macher in lane 7, a Fordham freshman. And Colin Smith, the junior out of Bucknell, in lane number 8. 4 and 6 seem to be the quickest. Addison Collins and Toma Adam, 1 and 2, coming at the turn. The Seton Hall swimmer putting in a very competitive time. He looks to be slightly quicker is Adam. The initial advantage, though, from Collins down in lane 4, and Collins continuing the sub 44 times with a 43.5. Just the second time we've seen a time under 44 seconds. Michael Klimaszewski in the previous heat with a 43.5. That's a 43, notably .59. So moving into the number 1 spot is the aforementioned Collins with 1 heat left to go. And our favorite, Matvey Namakamov, is set to take part in lane number 4. All 8 lanes used in heat 6 of 6 in the men's 100-yard freestyle prelims. Lanes 1 through 8 used. Matthew Schnowski in lane 1, the sophomore out of Davidson. Then you have Daniel Ribeiro, a junior from Fordham. Donovan Jang in lane 3, a junior out of Brown. Then you have the aforementioned Matvey Namakanov, the number 1 seed in lane 4, the senior from Delaware, with Christopher Zhang in lane 5, the Brown sophomore. Braden Weiss is in lane 6, a freshman out of UNBC. His teammate sophomore Andrew McEachern in lane 7. Drew Green, a junior out of Bucknell, up in lane number 8 to round out. That was an excellent push as well, off of the wall from Matvey Namakamov. And he is going to have a quite substantial advantage coming at the turn. He was the only seated swimmer under 44 seconds. He's trying to get a very eye-opening time. The Namakamov to the wall first, and it's a sub 43, a 42.9 to clinch the number 1 seed in this evening's tournament. Christopher Zhang, the Brown sophomore, a 44.3. That'll be enough to make the final heat as well. So Matvey Namakamov with a 42.9 to take first place. It's going to be a Delaware 1 and 2 in terms of the seedings after the preliminaries, with Addison Collins, his time of a 43.5, one of 3 times under 44 seconds, joining Michael Klimaszewski with that fact with a 43.59 after some of the adjustments. Once again, you're tuning in live to the Bucknell Invitational live on YouTube, getting set for the next preliminary competition. We're at the halfway mark here in this morning's prelims. We've had the women's 200-yard backstroke, the men's 200-yard backstroke, and then the 100 freestyle for the women and men, 4 of the 8 preliminary competitions that will take place here this morning. Coming up, we have the 200-yard breaststroke and the 200-yard butterfly stroke to conclude this morning's proceedings. We will be back, of course, this evening for the final day of the Bucknell Invitational, the final competitions that will take place at about 5 p.m. with the 1-mile swim for the women's and men's, followed by the 200 back, the 100 free, the 200 breast, the 200 fly, and with the 3-meter diving as an intermission, the 400 freestyle relay for the women and men to conclude this weekend's activities. Back in the pool, though, we have 4 heats in the women's 200-yard breaststroke. 6 swimmers to be cut from the field of 31 to dwindle down to 24 as we're underway. Lanes 1 through 7 being used for this one. In lane number 1, Leah Kaiser, a freshman out of UMBC. Then it's fellow freshman out of Fordham, Sarah Macri in lane number 2. Magdalena Lodarkowitz, the junior from Fordham, is in lane number 3 with her teammate, senior Miranda Bonatadibus, in lane number 4. In lane 5, Ava Stahlmeyer, a senior from Bucknell, with Kelsa Daytour in lane 6, a senior from Davidson. Yosin Hachifazioglu, the junior from Seton Hall, in lane number 7 to round it out. Bonatadibus in lane 4, the favorite by just 0.5 of a second from Lodarkowitz, and Stahlmeyer in lanes 3 and 5. So used now to these fast-paced events, it's almost time to slow things down a little bit as we go into the breaststroke competition. The cutoff time we predict to be under 2 minutes and 28 seconds, with the heat time in about the 2:20s. That's 2.20, that is, 2 minutes and 20 seconds and under. Down low, it's been a good start in lane 3. Magdalena Lodarkowitz, the junior out of Fordham. This is a Fordham-dominated group in heat 1 of 4. Lodarkowitz leading away from her teammate Bonatadibus in lane number 4. Those two neck and neck going stride for stride in the middle lanes as they come close now to the final lap here. Bonatadibus' time about 2/10 slower than Lodarkowitz, who is down in lane number 3. And then a late push all the way up from the rest of the pack in lane 7. That is Yosin Hachifazioglu of Seton Hall. That is rounding out what has been a very difficult set of pronunciation names to give out. But those 3 have led the line. Into the final 10 yards or so, and they are very much pushing the line here. Down in lane number 3, Lodarkowitz extending her advantage to the wall, and we'll touch it first with a 2:22.2. Bonatadibus in 2nd, Hachifazioglu in 3, Stahlmeyer from Bucknell in 4th, with Daytour in 5 and Macri in 6. Kaiser rounding it out down in lane 1 for UMBC. Going back to the men's 100-yard freestyle, a chance to look at who finished where, making the final A heat unofficially. Addison Collins, the number 1 seed, 3/100ths of a second quicker than Michael Klemajewski, who placed 2nd. Toma Adam finished with 3rd. Sean Niels 4th. Christopher Zhang 5th. Brandon Weiss, Daniel Ribeiro, and Kevin Carey, the unofficial times. Should be noted, Matvey Namakamov, we have been told, has been disqualified. We'll have to await confirmation. That is once again unofficial. In 24th, the final seed, the cutoff time of a 45.81. This will be contentious because we actually have a tie in the men's 100-yard freestyle for 24th position to see who can finish and get into the finals. Tucker Peterson and Drew Green, both with a 45.81 from Bucknell and Brown. It will have to be seen who winds up making the final there. Trying to make it less controversial, the women's 200-yard breaststroke, we are in heat 2 of 4. This is where we start to get the seeds in place, and the quickest is Caitlin Holmes, the senior out of Brown, in lane number 4. In lanes 1 through 3, Hannah Bingley, the senior out of Bucknell. Then it's Ella Drakulich in lane 2, a Seton Hall freshman, with freshman out of UMBC, Shannon Lambert in lane 3. The aforementioned Holmes is in 4. Catherine Yu is in lane number 5, a senior from Brown, and then it's freshman out of UMBC, Daphne Mellis in lane 6, and then 2 Davidson seniors in lane 7 and 8. That's Maggie McCabe and Liliana Schoen. The seeded swimmer is Caitlin Holmes in lane number 4. She is the number 3 seed, Catherine Yu, the other seeded swimmer in lane number 5. She represents the number 6 seed for this heat. They are very much close, and a shout out too to the two Davidson seniors, very experienced in their own right. Maggie McCabe and Liliana Schoen, all the way at the top of your screens, that have stayed in pace between the two Brown swimmers. It's Brown and Davidson, 1, 2, 3, and 4, as they look to push the pace in the upper echelon of the lanes. Trying to buy her time in lane 6, Daphne Mellis of UMBC, but it is the teammates sticking close to each other in the form of Brown and Davidson in a very fascinating way, we'll have to say. But now starting to make her move. Caitlin Holmes in lane number 4. Holmes continuing to extend. Schoen trying to stay put for Davidson. It's going to be a real battle for second as Holmes takes first. And Schoen takes second away from you with a 2:19.5. That is a very impressive time for Liliana Schoen. That was 9 seconds quicker than her seeded time. A very impressive sprint. Over an hour gone now in the Sunday AM session. This is the preliminary swims here in the final day of the Bucknell Invitational. Heat 3 of 4 for the women's 200-yard breaststroke set to take place. Underway now for this next competition in the women's 200-yard breaststroke, lanes 1 through 8, all being used here in this one. In lane 1, Angelina Chen, a freshman out of Brown. Then it's Brianna Smith in lane 2, the sophomore out of UMBC. 3 Delaware seniors following suit. Freshman Asimina Antaki in lane 3, junior Marissa Schenkenberger, who is the number 2 seed in this event. She is in lane 4. Piper Price, freshman in lane 5. And then you have UMBC junior Ula Peril in lane 6 with Elizabeth Palmer, the freshman out of Davidson, in lane 7, and Audrey Weller, the junior from Fordham, in lane number 8. Now, Simina and Taki having the best push so far through about 75-yard swam of the 200. She's going to have almost a waist-high advantage of maybe a second down in lane number 3, not exactly a second, 0.6 of a second away from her teammate Price, who is in second position. Trying to spoil a Delaware 1, 2, and 3 is Ula Peril in lane number 6, who is in third place, but the Delaware swimmers are trying to separate themselves now in the middle lanes. Out of the water first, Asimina and Taki. And Taki is the cutoff as the number 8 seed coming into this competition. But Antaki, with a very impressive swim in the preliminaries, has her ahead with 50 yards left to swim. But now the move is being made in lane number 4 by Marissa Schenkenberger. She bought her time from the freshman Antaki, and now the junior and the freshman are level going into the back wall. It's Antaki and Schenkenberger, the number 2 seed and the number 8 seed in this competition. Neck and neck, and now trying to make her name known is Piper Price. She had an excellent push off of the back wall. This could be potentially for the final Heat A spot this evening. It is Schenkenberger that takes it, in Price by less than 0.3 of a second, overtaking Antaki for second position. Parallel at a UMBC in fourth. A time of a 2:18.9. That is second quickest to Caitlin Holmes, who had a slightly quicker time in the second heat. And now into the final heat, heat 4 of 4. We expected the final heat time to be under 2 minutes and 21 seconds. We have had 6 swimmers go under the 2:20 mark. In fact, all 6 swimmers who are under 2:20 are also 2 minutes under and 20 seconds as well. And now in the final heat of the women's 200-yard breaststroke, Haley Weignad, the sophomore out of UMBC in lane 1. Then it's Sydney G in lane 2, a sophomore from Bucknell. Fellow sophomore Karina Canary of Fordham is in lane number 3. Amy Barrow, the senior out of Brown, in lane 4. Her teammate freshman Martina Capps is in lane 5. Kelly Byron, a junior from Bucknell, is in lane 6. Juniors all the way rest, with Lexi Lundell in lane 7 out of Fordham and Sam Benzaija of Bucknell in lane number 8. It is Amy Barrow and Karina Canary leading the way through 75-yard swam currently. 50 seconds gone in heat 4 of 4. We're sneaking a peek at what the cutoff time is. As of now, the cutoff is a 2:21.48. But based off of what we have seen, our predicted time expected to be under 2 minutes and 21 seconds entirely. That was our prediction going into it. They are neck and neck in lanes, though, 3 and 4. That is Canary and Barrow. Lexi Lundell, though, out of Fordham. Look out for her all the way up in lane number 7. She's done well to keep pace with the 2 swimmers in the middle. They are about 3 abreast in lanes 3, 4, and 7. Karina Canary, Amy Barrow, and Lexi Lundell, respectfully, will be right in the 1:40 going into the final wall push for the final 50 yards. The number 1 seeded time at 2:18.8. The top 8 cutoff at 2:21.4. In an event where we will see 6 swimmers rather, be cut for the women's 200-yard breaststroke. Even the outside lanes have a lot to compete for. Before this heat, here comes a late push in lane number 6. That's Kelly Byron trying to find her way into this final A seed. Down in lane number 3, though, it will be Canary that takes it from Lundell, from Byron, who come back well in lane 6 with a 2:16.9. Look at how quick those times are, and a 2:17.1 from Barrow to round out. All of the top 4 advancing to the A-seeded final, with Canary, almost a little bit of an upset victory, coming into as the number 7 seed. Canary will be the number 1 seed after the preliminaries. So Karina Canary, the sophomore out of Fordham, came in as the number 7 seed, will be the number 1 seed after the preliminaries, and she is going to be the 1 seed by 1.7 seconds. She was lightning quick in the prelims. Now for the men, the 200-yard breaststroke, 4 heats. This is 1 of 4. In lanes 1 through 8, Brandon Cortez, a senior out of Fordham. Then 2, we have Finn Lukens, a freshman from Bucknell. And 3, Ryan Schutt, a senior from Davidson. Lane 4, we'll see Daniel Krajewski, a freshman from Seton Hall. Max Boylan in lane 5, a Davidson freshman. 2 other freshmen, both out of Fordham, in Anthony Sanchez in lane 6 and Redek Cohen in lane 7. Nick Langretti, the sophomore out of Fordham, rounding it out up in lane number 8. After this heat, or towards the end of it, we will have the final unofficial for the women's 200-yard breaststroke. We're in heat 1 of 4 in the men's 200-yard breaststroke. Following this one, we will have the 200 flies that will conclude this morning's preliminary competition, with 5 p.m. start time for the evening competition for the final. 4 and 5 neck and neck. Daniel Krajewski and Max Boylan of Seton Hall and of Davidson, 1 and 2, the only 2 swimmers under a minute swam through the first 100 yards. Down in lane 3, we see the next closest, that is Ryan Schutt, with Finn Lukens not far behind him for 4th position. And those 2 that we just mentioned almost catching up a little bit to the pack here, as Boylan and Krajewski, their lead for 1st and 2nd, starting to dwindle a little bit with the rest of the pack catching up. The fastest swimmer, though, is still Boylan, down in lane number 5 on that previous lap, trying to get the advantage over Krajewski in lane number 4. Boylan off of the back wall, now swimming forward for the final 25. They were neck and neck coming out of the pool. A good push down in lane number 3 as well from Ryan Shutt. Late comeback potential for Krajewski, but doing just enough is Max Boylan, who took it with a 2:05.1. Krajewski in second, Shutt third, then Lukens, Cohen, Sanchez, Cortez, and Lungaretti rounding it out in lane number 8. And now a look at the women's 200-yard breaststroke after some of the unofficial times get recorded. The number 1 seed will be Karina Canary, who was 1.2 seconds quicker than the pack, with Lexi Lundell, Kelly Byrne, Amy Barrow, Caitlin Holmes, Marissa Schenkenberger, Piper Price, and Liliana Schoen. Unofficially, the 8 seeds in the 8 places rather for seed A in the women's 200-yard breaststroke this evening. The cutoff, 2:25.2, set by Sydney G of Bucknell. And now underway for the men's 200-yard breaststroke. Hour and 15 minutes gone here in this preliminary competition. Lanes 1 through 8 being used. Evan Hepburn, a freshman out of Bucknell in lane 1, with Ryan Hong, junior out of Fordham in lane 2. 3 sophomores following suit. Brian Wilbur of Delaware in lane 3, his teammate Malcolm Collins in lane 4. Eric Nadecki, a Brown sophomore, is in lane number 5. Matthew Johnson, a junior out of UMBC, is in lane 6 with Nathan Widman, a Davidson freshman, in lane 7. Matthew Rotunda, freshman out of UMBC, rounding it out up in lane number 8. Very quick pace for Brian Wilbur, the sophomore out of Delaware, down in lane 3. But that was a really good push off by Eric Nadecki, and the two nearly neck and neck here all of a sudden. On the turn of the next lap, it is still Wilbur from Nadecki, from Widman into the top 3. Brian Wilbur, coming into this competition, was placed outside of the seedings as the number 9 seed. They need to be in the top 8, of course, to be in the A seed heat this evening, trying to keep the momentum going against his competitor in lane number 5, and Eric Nadecki, the two neck and neck, separated by less than 0.3 of a second going into the final lap. Those two going wire to wire in lanes 3 and 5, and that's going to get some of the atmosphere building. Brian Wilbur down in lane 3 has led the majority of the way, but fellow sophomore out of Brown, Eric Nadecki, trying to push forward. Nadecki had the better push, and now he overtakes Wilbur. Going into the final strokes. Who has the last stamina for the 10 yards? It's Eric Nadecki getting it right at the end with a 2-minute .3. 2-minute .96 away is Wilbur for second. Widman of Davidson rounding out the top 3 with a 2:03.9. So now we're starting to see what it's going to take to get into that A-seeded heat final this evening. It looks like you're going to have to be sub 2-minute 1 second from my view. Max Boylan had the first heat with a time of a 2:05. The second heat pushed the momentum as the swimmers would go 5 seconds quicker nearly in heat number 2, setting the standard for heat 3. All 8 lanes used once again. Down in lane number 1 through 8, Evan Wilson, a sophomore from Seton Hall, with Matt Rautabog, a senior from Bucknell in lane 2. James Tao, the UMBC junior, is in lane 3, with Max Moore, a Brown sophomore, in 4. Jake Regenwetter, a senior from Brown, will occupy lane number 5. Dylan Smolders, senior from Delaware, is in lane 6. Lorenzo Tabladini, a graduate student from Seton Hall, is in 7. Lucas Scola rounding it out, the freshman out of UMBC, predicted to swim at least in lane number 8, but Escola might have been a late scratch, as there is no swimmer, in fact, in lane number 8. So Escola, the late scratch, but lanes 1 through 7 still being used. In the middle of the pool, Max Moore, the number 2 seed in this competition. in lane number 4, but it is his teammate Jake Regenwetter that has the slim margin of just over a second going into the halfway mark in lane number 5. Regenwetter from Moore, and then down in lane number 3, James Town putting in some good pace as well to keep up with the brown swimmers in the middle. We are predicting a time in the 2 minute, 1 second and fewer to make the heat final. The cutoff time, it's going to be a little bit more generous, around the 2 minute and 10 second mark, with only 33 swimmers competing and 24 competing in the finals this evening. The pace setter remains Jake Regenwetter, who is the number 5 seed, a very respectable 2:03.2 as his seeded time, but he is on pace to eclipse that and then some. His teammate Max Moore had the plaudits as the number 2 seed coming into this competition, but the brown teammate Regenwetter gonna leave this one with the spoils and under 2 minutes to do it. A 1:58.7, a mightily impressive time for Regenwetter to take first. A brown 1-2 with Moore in second, Tao in third, Smolders in fourth, and Tabladini of Seton Hall rounding out the top 5 with a 2:06.5. What we predicted seems to have been potentially the case to make the Seed A final. You need a time of a 2:01 or less, and it was the middle lanes of Regenwetter and Moore that had that exact mark. But now in heat 404, and we see our favorite for this competition, Martin Nagy, a sophomore out of Brown in the middle of the pool, wearing the bright red head cap in the middle of your screens, trying to lead the pace early. The rest of the competitors now in lanes 1 through 8. James Gottfried, the sophomore out of Brown, in lane 1. His teammate freshman Stephen Ma in lane 2. Yegor Ellerman in lane 3, the freshman of Seton Hall. The aforementioned Nagy is in lane 4. Manuel Osorio, the junior from Delaware, in lane 5. 2 other juniors next to him, and Elliott Fielder at a UMBC in 6. James Lombardi of Bucknell in 7. Frank Howden in lane number 8, the senior out of Davidson, to round out the final heat in the men's 200-yard breaststroke preliminary. We see the time of a 1:58.7 by Jake Regenwetter. He is now the top seed through the prelims. But looking to beat that, and on pace to beat that, Manuel Osorio and Martin Nagy, who are both quicker than Regenwetter at the halfway mark, on pace too. Starting to see Nagy make his move in the middle on that second stride down low. Manuel Osorio doing well to keep pace. Ahead, or rather to their right in 6, Elliott Fielder staying competitive, as is Yegor Ellerman in lane 3, and Stephen Ma in lane 2. In fact, Ma is 4th now, ahead of Ellerman in the top 5. Into the final 50 yards of this one, and Nagy making his name known after Osorio had a very quick start through 100-yard swim. He's starting to fall off a bit from the rest of the pack. Martin Nagy, the number 1 seed, the seeded time to beat is a 1:58.7 to take the number 4 lane in the pool later this evening. He will not do that. In fact, it is a 2-minute 0.06 as Jake Regenwetter of Brown will be the number 1 seed. Nagy, the number 2 seed, as he tops heat number 4. Osorio tied with Fielder for second place. They will be the 3rd and 4th seed unofficially, making the Seed A final this evening. As we'll get confirmation and await what will take place, as we have some technical difficulties in terms of the final finishers. We'll try to get all of that sorted out before giving the 8 swimmers that will compete in the 8-seeded final in the men's 200-yard breaststroke and the final cutoff of the 24. We turn to the next event, the women's 200-yard butterfly. Lane 8 will be the vacant lane for this one. 1 through 7 will have Leah Nader, the senior out of Davidson, in lane 1. Carly Atwood is in lane 2, a freshman out of UMBC. Ginny Thorson, sophomore from Davidson, occupying lane 3. Shung-Shi Lim, the junior from Seton Hall, is in 4. Maxine Camilone, a freshman from Fordham, in lane number 5. Molly Curran, junior from UMBC, is in 6, with Charlotte Foggin rounding it out, the freshman out of Fordham, in lane number 7. The cutoff time, you're going to need under 2 minutes and 9 seconds, it seems, for this one. To make Heat A, you're going to need under 2 minutes and 4 seconds in the women's 200-yard butterfly. This is the final preliminary event that will be split amongst the women and the men for the 200-yard butterfly. There will be a swim-off, notably, on stream following the proceedings of this competition. And then at 5 p.m., later this afternoon going into the evening, we will have the final events of this weekend for the Bucknell Invitational. Shung-Chi Lim down in lane number 4, an early pace setter in this competition. Lim outside of the seedings with heat number 1, all featuring the slowest seeded times coming into the competition. Shung-Chi Lim listed as the number 25 seed. You need to finish in the top 24 to compete this evening. But I tell you what, Lim is putting in a very impressive performance, isn't she? If she can keep this pace, this is going to be a very competitive time to make the proceedings this evening. At the halfway mark, she is a body and a half separated from the number 3 lane in Ginny Thorson, who is in second position. A quick push for Maxine Camilone in lane 5, but it was Shung-Chi Lim from wire to wire that took it with a 2:04.8. Thorson of Davidson in second, Camilone in third, a big gap before we see Curran and Atwood round out the top 5. But look out for that 2:04.8. Shung-Chi Lim predicted to finish outside of the top 24, but I would be stunned if she didn't make the top 24 with that time. Now the unofficial for the men's 200-yard breaststroke that took place prior to this one. The top 8 unofficially. Jake Regan-Wetter will be the number 1 seed by 2 seconds nearly. The Brown senior, the number 1 seed, followed by Martin Nagy, Max Moore, Eric Nadecki, Brian Wilbur, Manuel Osorio, Elia Felder. And making the top 8 by 4/100ths of a second is Stephen Ma. The cutoff in 24th at 2:07.84, set by Davidson senior Ryan Shutt. Once again, that's unofficial. As we go to the women's 200-yard butterfly, this is heat number 2 of 4, which is underway. All 8 lanes being used for this one. In lane 1, Sophia Parker, the junior from Davidson, followed by Dana Lee, a junior from Brown, in lane 2. Tessa Feld is in lane 3, the freshman out of Bucknell. Summer Chmielewski, a senior from Brown, who already has an event win, is in lane 4. 5 will have Torrin McGillis, a sophomore from Delaware, with Fordham junior Haley Clark in lane 6. Emma Briganti in lane 7, a freshman from Bucknell. And then rounding out in lane number 8, Nora Ratmeyer, the junior from Davidson. As we approach the halfway mark already in this heat, it is 4 and 6. Chmielewski and Clark. That is 1 and 2 at the halfway mark, already under a minute. The top spot after one heat, a 2:04.8, set by Shung-Chi Lim of Seton Hall. Right now, the top 2 swimmers on pace to beat Lim. We predicted a time of under 2 minutes and 4 seconds to make the A-seeded final to take place this evening. And now an overtake up in lane 6 as Haley Clark has taken the advantage. Clark almost a second quicker than Chmielewski, who is in second, Feld in third, McGillis in fourth, and Parker. Look out for her all the way down in lane number 1. Parker doing well to hold strong in the middle of the pack. 4 and 6, though, have set the pace. Chmielewski trying to catch up to Clark here. Coming into the final 25. We predicted a time of under 2:04 at least is required. They'll finish under that and then some, and it's going to be a staggering start as Haley Clark with a 2:01.1 takes it. Chmielewski in second, a big push for third. as Feld from Bucknell eclipses McGillis for third position, and Ratmeyer rounding out the top 5 in lane number 8 with a very impressive final 50. On the graphic that you can see in the bottom right, you're starting to get a look, at least on the scoreboard, a look at some of the team scores. We haven't brought up the team scores, of course, with these just being the preliminaries, but it's going to be the familiar teams of Brown and Delaware in the top 2, Bucknell notably eclipsing Fordham for third after yesterday. Now in heat 3 of 4 for the women's 200-yard butterfly prelim. Lanes 1 through 8 all being used. Alice Marini, a graduate student out of UMBC in 1. The sophomore is Amelia Hines in lane 2 out of Brown, one of 4 Brown swimmers in a row, with freshman Eva McIver-Jenkins in 3, another freshman in Beatrice Stewart in 4, and junior Lizzie Washburn in lane number 5. Zoe Wecker in 6, the freshman out of Delaware, with Nicole DeVanzo, a sophomore from UMBC in 7, and Hannah Prunk, the freshman from Seton Hall, rounding it out in lane number 8. There is a very emphatic, we'll call it, predictor to win in Victoria Novinsky, who is 5 seconds quicker than the next quickest heated time with a 1:55. Just trying to make the show, though, are the competitors here. Haley Clark and Summer Chmielewski, both with times under 2 minutes and 3 seconds through the first 2 heats, with Shang-Chi Lim in third with a 2:04.8. At the halfway mark, it is Brown 1, 3, and 4, with Stewart in that middle 4th lane, keeping them going. Stewart is the number 2 seed in this competition. Washburn towards her left is the number 5 seed. Washburn in lane number 5 in second place. But their teammate Eva McIver-Jenkins, who is seeded number 8, trying to get a push for the A seed final this evening. Times under 32 seconds for each of the top 3. It's Stewart from Washburn from McIver-Jenkins. Beatrice Stewart, the freshman out of Brown, predicted as the number 2 seed by just 3/100ths of a second. The quickest time we've had so far belonging to Haley Clark with a 2:01.1. That is the time that Beatrice Stewart is going to try to beat to have a good push here for the A-seeded final, and she will do just that with a 2-minute .7. And then with separation, Washburn in second with a 2:02.5, and McIver-Jenkins rounding out the top 3 with a 2:03.2. Those 3 in contention to make the A-seeded final this evening. Now with the referee's whistle blowing, our official on the near side and the far, the near side whistle going as we go to heat 4, the women's 200-yard fly. As we get the times updated in totality, we have 1 through 8 being used here for the final heat. Jocelyn Halsey, a freshman out of Bucknell in 1. Her teammate junior Sydney Detman is in lane number 2. Erin Richards, freshman from Delaware in 3. Her teammate senior Victoria Novinsky in lane 4. She is the heavy favorite in lane 4. Lane 5 will have Clara Renner, a sophomore from Bucknell, with 6 featuring Hannah On, a junior from Brown. Ella Montgomery and Eli Sparrow, both freshmen in lane 7 and 8 out of Fordham and Delaware respectfully. And it is, as advertised, Victoria Novinsky, who has already not only won in this competition, but have set records in this competition. Victoria Novinsky, who you can see quite evidently very much ahead of the rest of the pack, has not only won both of her individual events, but has set pool records in the 200-yard individual medley back on Friday and in the 100-yard butterfly competition on Saturday. She is a record setter, and I am sure she's licking her lips at a potential record here. 157.3 is the pool record. Nowitzki broke the 100-yard record in the prelims yesterday, and I think she's got a record setter on her mind here in this one. Well, the result of this heat is by far and away finished. A great look by our camera operator, Travis Fatchline, at just how wide the margin is. She's not racing the competitors. She's racing the clock. Nowitzki has set 2 pool records this weekend. She's looking to make it a third, trying to beat a 157. She's not going to break it. She just might shatter it. And she does by over a second with a 156.0, a pool record here at the Natatorium, and the emphatic #1 seed in this evening's competition, 4 seconds clear of the field. Renner from Bucknell, her efforts will be masked by what Nowitzki did, but Renner looks to have made the A-seeded final for the Bison in second with a 2:02.4 and a 2:03 flat for her teammate Detman in lane number 2. That was simply incredible, and we have seen Victoria Nowitzki all throughout this weekend provide nothing but greatness, even in the preliminaries, getting the crowd and the atmosphere up, and she did it and then some there. Now we're in the final event preliminary of this morning, the men's 200-yard butterfly, and only 2 swimmers competing across lanes 4 and 5. Matthew Schnowski, a late scratch in lane 3, so we are going to see Nathan Rogers, the junior out of Fordham, in lane 4, and Lita McDonough, the senior out of Davidson, in lane number 5 after the conclusion, or rather in just a few short moments, in fact, after the quick update, we will see our unofficial top 8 and what our cutoff time is for the women's 200-yard butterfly. McDonough from Davidson, narrowly ahead of Rogers by about a body's length as they hit the halfway mark. And now we can get a look at our unofficial results in the women's 200-yard butterfly, the A-seeded final. We'll see Victoria Nowitzki, who was 2.6, or rather not 2, 4.6, much better, seconds clear of the field as the #1 seed. Brown freshman Beatrice Stewart is second with Haley Clark, Clara Renner, Sumner Chmielewski, Lizzie Washburn, Sydney Detman, and Eva McIver-Jenkins as the top 8 seeds. McIver-Jenkins about 0.3 of a second quicker than her teammate Hannah On in 2 different heats to round out the top 8. The cutoff was Hannah Pronk of Seton Hall, the freshman, who placed 24th and will compete this evening with the cutoff time of a 2:09.88. And not to brag, but just 3/100ths off of our predicted cutoff time. I have to give a shout out to everyone in the booth, of course. A quite heavy advantage in the middle of the pool in lane number 5, as we're going to see Liam McDonough, the senior out of Davidson, take this initial heat in a time of a 1:58.8. that just might turn a few heads, not enough to make the top 24 by our predictors, but an impressive time nonetheless, as Nathan Rogers with a 2:10 flat will take second position. Well, if Victoria Nowitzki is expected to blow away the competition for the men's side of the things, it's expected to be very much a nip and tuck affair. 5 swimmers separated by just less than a second in the seeded times. We will see them in heat 3 to start, but now we go to heat number 2 in the men's 200-yard butterfly. All 8 lanes, rather 7 lanes being used, with a late scratch up in lane number 8. That was Alan Engstrom that is not competing, the Davidson junior. So lanes 1 through 7 will be used. And in lanes 1 through 7, Axel Moria, the sophomore out of UMBC. In lane 2, we'll see Will Cross, the sophomore out of Delaware. Nikita Bitiutsky in lane 3, the senior from Bucknell. His teammate freshman C.J. Meyer occupies lane number 4. Talon Hickman, sophomore from Seton Hall, is in lane 5 with Juan Abella the junior from Fordham, in 6th position. Ryan Staunch, a senior from Fordham, rounding it out up in lane number 7. And it is Seton Hall ahead with Talon Hickman in the number 5 lane, narrowly ahead of CJ Meyer and Nikita Bityutsky in 2nd and 3rd. And rather, we actually have a different second placer. You're going to have to squint your eyes a little bit and look down to lane number 1. That is Axel Maury at the halfway mark, who is in 2nd position as the crowd continues to congest. Look at number 1 in the lane, Axel Maury, who looks to have actually overtaken Hickman, and it's going to be Maury that narrowly finds himself 4/100ths of a second behind Bityutsky, who finished that lap slightly better. Bityutsky in lane 3 and Maury in lane 1, the two near-sided lanes putting on a show here. We expect the cutoff time to be under 1 minute and 56 seconds and the heat A-seeded time about 1 minute 51 seconds and a half. This could be a fight for that cutoff time as they're 3 abreast, and it's going to be Meyer that comes back late to claim it with Bityutsky and Maury in the top 3. 4th place is Staunch of Fordham. The top 3 separated by just over a second as Meyer, CJ Meyer, the freshman, came nearly out of nowhere to take that second heat. Following this morning's preliminaries, as mentioned, we are going to see prelims for the mile, with the final mile competition taking place at 5 p.m. to start the evening's proceedings. Victoria Novinsky, though, will steal the show this morning, setting a pool record in the women's 200-yard butterfly by just over a second. She is the heavy favorite to take a 3rd individual crown in this weekend's competitions at the Bucknell Invitational. Here now for heat number 3 in the prelims. In lanes 1 through 8, we will have Zach Jones, a junior from Davidson, with Christopher Chang, a senior from Brown, in lane 2. Jason Kellerman, a freshman from Bucknell, occupies lane number 3. Charles Henage, a sophomore from Delaware, is in 4. Riley Twist, a Bucknell junior, is in lane 5, with James Kershaw of Brown in lane 6. Wesley Schlockner, the freshman out of Seton Hall, is in lane 7, and Jack Butera rounding it out, the junior out of Brown, in lane number 8. At the halfway mark, it is Kershaw from Twist from Henage in lanes 6, 5, and 4. James Kershaw was actually a late change, notably, in the lineup, was not expected to compete in this competition as a whole, was a late entry, and Kershaw's only gone on and taken the lead at the halfway mark here in heat number 3. They touch the wall and go to the opposite side, and now a slight push in lane 4 from Charles Henage, the sophomore out of Delaware. Charles nip and tuck with James Kershaw as they go to the final wall push. The crowd beginning to roar in approval of this. 1:55.6 is our closest time after 2 heats. They are going to blow away the competition here in heat 3, and it's going to be James Kershaw into the lineup and potentially into the A-seeded final with a 1:48.2. Kellerman in second, also under 1 minute and 50 seconds with a 1:49.9. With Henage, a 1:50.3, rounding out the top 3. Henage, the number 3 seed, having to settle for 3rd in his own heat. James Kershaw was the late entry into the lineup. He was the number 7 seed that comes in late. And the number 7 seed now leading the timetables through 3 heats, swam a 5. 2 times under 1 minute and 50 seconds. That is our predicted cutoff, with Kellerman and Kershaw under. And now heat 4 of 5 in the men's 200-yard butterfly. 2 more heats before this preliminary competition concludes. Lanes 1 through 8 all used. Trey Mastrandria, the freshman out of Brown, in lane 1. His teammate, sophomore Jack Marin, is in 2. Shane Wynn is in lane 3, the senior out of Bucknell. Matthew Purcell, junior out of Brown, will be in lane 4, with Dylan Smolders, a senior out of Delaware, in 5. Alex Crossing and Finn Franks, 2 Bison swimmers, in lanes 6 and 7, senior and sophomore respectfully, with sophomore out of Brown, Lachlan Kirby, rounding it out in lane number 8. This is going to be a competition, as we mentioned, that will be very close-knitted. James Kershaw through 3 heats with a 1:48.2 has been the quickest. The seeds are very much an asterisk in terms of how close everyone is, but Matthew Purcell in lane number 4 is the number 2 seed in this competition, who came in with a 1:49.8 prediction. Past the halfway mark, if 100 of 200 swam in the 200 butterfly, and Purcell continues to lead the pack here. Shane Wynn over to the left in lane number 3 is in 2nd. Jack Marin, the sophomore out of Brown, in the number 2nd lane, looks to be in 3rd. In fact, they gave it to lane 5. That's Dylan Smolders, who's doing well to come back from the middle of the pool. But right now, in what is expected to be a very close competition, it's been a one-sided affair with Matthew Purcell in the middle. Purcell, the junior out of Brown, who competed very well in this competition this weekend, and he will get a heat victory with a 1:47.6. That's the best time we've seen today. Crossing 4 seconds behind with a 1:51.2. That's narrowly enough to make the A seed final with a heat to go in 2nd position. But a very fast 1:47.6. The standout belonging to Matthew Purcell, who has the number 1 seed going into the final heat. The looming large time of a 1:51.2 that as of now will be the 6th fastest time. Only the top 8 can make the A seed final. We start to get a slight look at the cutoff times. We predicted it to be around the 1:56 mark, with 13 swimmers being excluded. It seems to be a lot quicker as the pace continues to be pushed forward. Now the final heat of the prelims, heat 5 of 5 in the men's 200-yard butterfly competition. Lanes 1 through 8 used. Jacob Replogel, the senior out of Delaware, is in 1, with Jake Karolf, the sophomore from Seton Hall, in lane 2. Max Moen, junior from Delaware, in lane 3. His teammate Will Diorazio, the freshman, who is the number 1 seed, is in lane number 4. Fletcher Smith, senior out of Davidson, in 5. 2 Davidson teammates next to him in the form of Robbie Vata, sophomore, in lane 6, and Jackson Bubber, the freshman, in lane 7. Rounding it out, freshman out of Seton Hall, Zachary McLeod, in lane number 8. Well, the predicted number 1 seed, Will Diorazio, in the middle of the pack here, as Fletcher Smith out of Davidson has set the pace. How about that? A 50.7. This is a lightning pace being set by the Davidson swimmer Fletcher Smith, the senior who's been here before. He is the number 4 seed coming into the preliminaries. He has himself about a body's length lead going into the final 60 yards or so of this preliminary. This is a lightning quick pace, and keep a nod as well all the way up in lane number 8. Zachary McLeod has been very competitive, as well as the Seton Hall fans get on their feet. They're ending the preliminaries in a lightning pace. Fletcher Smith with a sensational time upcoming potentially. The 1:47.6 is the current number 1 seed, and it looks like that could be shattered here potentially if he keeps this pace. Fletcher Smith will touch the wall first. Will he get the number 1 seed? Yes, he will. A 1:46.5. And how about Zachary McLeod taking second with the third fastest time of the morning, a 1:48.2. He will advance to the A-seeded finals as well. A spectacular way to conclude the morning preliminaries. And it will be the number 1 seed of Fletcher Smith, the senior out of Davidson. Davidson in this entire competition has just 2 event wins, and they could look to get a third with a staggering pace set by Fletcher Smith here in the preliminaries. As in the Kinney Natatorium, we will have our swim off and we will have some of our diving preliminaries take place as well on the right side. But for now, we will step aside then for this morning session, and an electric morning session as well at that. For our executive producer, Adam Contini, director Maria Rizzuta, and camera operator Travis Fatchline, I'm Nicholas Severini. We are going to continue to go here with a swim off that will take place, and this is always something that gets the crowd going. It is a 100-yard freestyle swim off that will take place between Bucknell Junior Drew Green and Brown Senior Tucker Peterson. 100 yards, and that always gets the crowd in anticipation. Green is down and up rather in lane number 5, with Peterson down in lane number 4. We saw both swimmers get the crowd into it here. The 100-yard freestyle swim off is underway. Both swimmers, you have to say, quite close to this one, and that's going to get the crowd very much into it. They're very close. Peterson against Green. Peterson the slight advantage. And now they turn into the back, and they're neck and neck, aren't they? Green trying to catch up to Peterson. Peterson has led wire to wire, and the Brown Senior is going to narrowly take the advantage as well with a 45.1, just 0.6 of a second quicker than Green, as Peterson splashes the pool into the water to get the win. One last little freestyle swim off that saw Tucker Peterson claim the victory in what was a 100-yard freestyle swim off that has just taken place. And now with that swim off concluded, we can now get into our ending credits here. Once again, executive producer Adam Contini, director Maria Rizzuta, camera operator Travis Fatchline. That'll do it for this morning's session here at the Kinney Auditorium. Stay back tuned in at 5 p.m. this evening, where we will have the conclusion of the Bucknell Invitational. Once again, you've been tuning to the Bucknell Invitational live on YouTube.